Hello and welcome to Laudio's three-part series, Driving Measurable Financial and Clinical Outcomes Through Effective Leadership, Phoenix Leadership. I'm CJ Floros, COO of Laudio, and leading the conversation with me today is Dr. Val Gokenbach. And Val has been a nurse in CNO for more than 40 years, and when you hear her background, I think you'll be amazed. She has a true passion for leadership, and she is currently the Vice President and Chief Nursing Officer at Baylor Scott & White All Saints Medical Center in Fort Worth, Texas. Val ran her own consulting business called Dr. Val Leading Leaders, where she helped organizations improve their organizational success, develop leaders, and coach executives. As a senior executive herself, she's managed nursing in supported several departments such as radiology, respiratory therapy, radiation oncology, nuclear medicine, neurodiagnostic services, employee health, and the list goes on and on and on. Her greatest accomplishment has been leading the nursing team to the receipt of the prestigious Magnet accreditation in 2004 for nursing and organizational excellence, and reaccreditation in 2008. And looks like she may be doing it again, which doesn't surprise any of us. Val, it's great to have you here with us. And I wanted to get started by asking, what is Phoenix leadership? And why is this concept so important at this time in healthcare?
Well, CJ, thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun for me to be here. Phoenix leadership actually is my own concept. As I've been in healthcare administration for over 40 years, I hate to admit I've been in healthcare organizations that long, but because that means I'm old. But I guess the Phoenix leadership has been my own idea of things that I've observed over the course of all these years. Started in my leadership position 1 year out of school, so I was one of those nurse managers thrown into the mix and, hit the ground running like you're shot out of a cannon. You don't know when you landed. You're
Right.
just looking around like, what do I do? Where do I go? And over all these years, I've really started to focus on this whole concept of leadership and how do people become better leaders. And I think that what we've seen now, especially now with what's going on with COVID, more than anything now, we need new paradigms in regards to thinking about leadership and thinking about how we approach these things. So the concept of the Phoenix is actually my idea about using a very, very powerful metaphor. So people think in pictures. And, if I think I'm going to go get an ice cream or something, I don't think of the process of getting an ice cream. I think about that ice cream cone that's sitting there in front of me that I'm going to go get. So we think in pictures. I'm doing laundry, so I'm looking at my washer and dryer when I'm thinking about doing laundry. So the whole concept of the Phoenix, in my mind, leadership is really all about change. That's all we do is change. We evolve. We keep continually doing new processes because we have to meet the demands of what the world's throwing at us. And right now the world's throwing a lot at us. So I think about the Phoenix. The Phoenix is actually a beautiful bird if you believe about mythology, a bird that lasts for about 500 to 2,000 years. And when the Phoenix becomes old and tired, it burns itself into the ground and reignites into this beautiful brand new bird that's going to take off and live again. So the whole idea is, how do leaders actually let go of the past of what they're doing, which is a problem why a lot of leaders don't move forward. How do we let go of the past and move forward, where we let go of the past by actually using something like the metaphor of let's leave it behind and let's start again, renew ourselves, and become a brand new person that's going to think differently and do things differently.
Well, and how relevant today, given our current situation with this crisis that we're in, and the fact that we do have to reinvent ourselves, not just as leaders, but in systems in many ways, right? So it's highly relevant in regards to having to step back, look at what we've done in the past. Is it still relevant today? And providing, to your point, in some cases, building from scratch all over again. Is that
Yeah, absolutely. Building from scratch. I've got a couple good examples. I mean, all of our meetings were in person, in-face meetings. We're looking at each other, and huddles were in person, and everything we did in the hospital was basically in person in leadership. And we've gone to this total virtual world that people are becoming more and more comfortable with. We tried to get telemedicine going for years and years and years, and the paradigm was, no, that's not good. You have to have the high touch. We've got to be there with you. People aren't going to like this. So we're finding out that what we took 20 years for us talking about was actually put in place in a very, very short amount of time. And we're finding out that people really like it, that it really is a better way, or a good way to do that kind of business. So a lot of things are changing, and I think we're just getting used to the new world.
Yeah, and to your point of getting used to it, a big part of this is change management, right? And behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
And for these leaders, in terms of the Phoenix leadership style and the approach, do you find that given different personalities of leaders and different stages of where they're at, is it applicable to all leaders? Do you have to be at a certain level of experience to be able to kind of take on some of these new ideas and approach?
No, I don't think you have to be at any certain level. I think anybody can have the mindset of being willing to change. So there's a few things that I really think are important that I see would be in a Phoenix leader, that are things that you can draw upon and things that you can evolve over time. But I think the first thing, and I like to get back to basics with all leaders as far as, what do we do? Who are we? So the first thing I think, and especially in times like this right now, is that we really need a strong sense of self and really understanding who we are. How can I change someone else, or how can I change something if I don't know who I am? If I'm an extrovert, I like to be out there with my staff. If I'm an introvert, I need to be an extrovert. But if I'm an introvert, I have to figure out ways to get out there with my staff to where I feel comfortable. So I think it's really important. The very first step is for all leaders, regardless of whether you're a leader for a week or whether you're a leader for 45 years, the whole idea is the strong sense of self and knowing yourself, knowing what kind of person you are. And then I think upon that, too, the next step to that is once you know yourself, the only way you're going to continue to be successful with that is by being reflective. So I know who I am. I know what I like to do, but you have to keep going back and being reflective of the things that you're doing so that you go back and you say, this didn't work. Let's try this. This is the way I came across to people. Maybe that wasn't the best way. And in my opinion, reflection is tough. Reflection is tough. And if you're doing it the right way, reflection should be tough, because it should be you being very honest with yourself about things that need to change. That leads to the notion of the Phoenix, is that the willingness to change, the understanding that you need to change, I think is important.
It's interesting you say, because I think the common theme here is change,
Mm-hmm.
and understanding yourself on what areas you need to change, right? At that foundational level, in order to use those guiding principles of Phoenix leadership, you need to understand who you are, is what you're saying, right? And then how do you best leverage your assets around you and who you are as a leader to be able to effectively lead in this manner, right? So with that said, I guess my question is, in today's environment, given that there's several leaders who are battlefield promoted, not provided a whole lot of training and education in terms of managing, as a nurse manager, and creating their own workarounds to try to figure it all out. When you look at Phoenix leadership, a big piece of that description and a big piece of the world we're in today is having the personality and the willingness to change. And is there any techniques that you find that you first have to break down? Because I think change is tough for everyone, regardless of introvert or extrovert. This is something that's non-discriminating for everyone. What are some of the key points that you seem to help break down people's aversion, really just take that first leap, which is risky, right?
Well, I think if you're getting back to basics again, really talking about this notion of the ego, because a lot of times we don't want to change because we feel the way that we're doing business is the right way, and the way you're going to do business is not going to probably be as good as the way I am. So I think we have to understand that everybody has an ego. Those of us in hospital administration probably have bigger ones than anybody, because I don't think you get to that point unless you have that self-confidence and that willingness to do that. But at some point, that ego can kill you. That ego can really make things very, very difficult for you. I think everybody that I've ever talked to has worked with someone who has the ego the size of the Northern Hemisphere, and they're not easy people to work with. So first of all, understanding that we have an ego, very important, because if we didn't have an ego, we wouldn't fit into society, so we definitely need that ego. But I think we have to understand what that ego does to us. I think that ego puts things in our heads. That ego makes us feel insignificant. That ego makes us want to feel powerful over other people, because it's all about how we fit into society and what we look like to other people. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes we get out of doing what's right because we're doing what's right for us. And I think that's really important to understand. First of all, you got to control the ego, know that you have it, understand it, and then learn to get over it.
Great insight. Great insight. Well, I mean, I think that leads us into our second session. So I think, Phoenix leadership clearly is looking at things from a big picture, understanding what needs to break down to start from scratch, understanding and checking the ego, to your point, at the door, and being open to understanding who you are as a leader and how to leverage who you are to demonstrate Phoenix leadership in a manner that gets the impact you're looking for. So thank you, Val, for your insights, your thoughts. And in the next session, I think we want to go into more detail about how to effectively communicate and lead through this change management process with your teams and while implementing new leadership strategies, which I think is the key piece to this, right? I think it's having an understanding. We've all been to those trainings, right? Where, best practice, and this is how it looks, and this is the pathway and mapping your way there. But it is, how do you create these new norms, not just for yourself now, but for the teams around you? So we will get into that in session 2. So thank you so much. And look forward to continuing the session.